A new CNN poll conducted by the University of New Hampshire has Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren leading in the state. Joe Biden is polling third there with 15%. That's 9 points lower than he fared in an earlier CNN UNH poll from July. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins me now from Washington. All right, Ed, so what stands out to you from this poll?
That this is becoming a four-person race, Elaine, instead of a three-person race. Not only in Iowa just last week, but now in New Hampshire, there's evidence that Pete Buttigieg has managed to break into that double-digit territory and basically become the fourth option. No surprise that Sanders and Warren, who are from neighboring states, are in 1 and 2. Perhaps a little surprising that Biden has slipped as much as he has. But I think this survey, once again, compared to the national one we did, our battleground tracker, some Iowa polling last week, and now this, suggests that Buttigieg has managed to find himself a seat at the adults table.
Interesting. Well, another report today by Bloomberg says top Democrats are warning Joe Biden is in danger of a, quote, humiliating loss in Iowa. The report says Biden is risking a third or fourth place finish there because he's not engaging enough with voters and party leaders. How concerned, Ed, has the Biden campaign been about support in early states like Iowa and New Hampshire?
First of all, Elaine, you could insert a different name into that article, and it would basically be the story for everyone at this point. Things are so unsettled that there's always a chance that somebody ends up with a humiliating third or fourth place loss. And you're always going to be able to find one or two party chairmen, especially at the county level, who feel like their ring hasn't been kissed enough. And that appears to be what's part of the case here. But the reality is this. Biden has not been in Iowa as much as some of the others. I believe by our tally, Kamala Harris, for example, spent at least 15 days this month, or is set to spend at least 15 days this month in Iowa, making good on her promise to basically move to the state and do what she can to build up support. Biden has not done that. He has been there very rarely. He will be there this weekend, along with most of the field, for a series of big events that are being held on Friday and Saturday. But obviously he is potentially in a tricky situation. His team, or he has said that he thinks he will finish strongly there. Doesn't necessarily vow to finish number one, but really anything worse than third, I think, would spell really big trouble for him, even though he believes South Carolina remains a firewall for him just a few days later after Iowa.
And I want to ask you about some of your reporting. The Democrats in Congress want impeachment wrapped up before voting starts. You've been reporting on the Republicans that Democrats are watching when it comes to potentially voting for the inquiry. Do Democrats really think that anyone might break ranks within the GOP?
Yeah, deep skepticism that anyone will do it, because this really is seen as not only a test vote of impeachment, but really a test vote of loyalty to the president, and whether you're willing to stand by him. So it is unlikely that you will see folks that essentially want to get reelected and come back to Washington stand in the way of the president, unless for some reason in the next 48 hours they're shown something that suggests that voting for this inquiry and the new rules of the road makes sense for them politically back home. But Democrats will keep an eye on people like Fred Upton and Justin Amash of Michigan, a Republican from southwestern Michigan. Amash, now the new Republican turned independent. They'll look at Brian Fitzpatrick from a suburban Pennsylvania district. They'll see how Will Hurd, who's retiring, decides to vote on this, given that he's been pretty outspoken in his concern with the president. People like Brian Mast there from the 18th District of Florida. That is a swing district that has gone back and forth between the two parties several times this decade. So he, too, will be a target. Beyond them, there are 19 House Republicans who are retiring after next year. So do any of them, besides Will Hurd, who was in that graphic, decide to vote against the president out of concern about what's going on, or at least a willingness to see the process play out? We'll see. But as we've already seen, Republican leadership concerned about these proposals from Democrats, and so if only for that, perhaps Republicans would cite that as a reason not to support the resolution.
Well, there's also, Ed, some news about a familiar Republican on the Senate side. What can you tell us about Jeff Sessions' 2020 plans? That's
right. The former Attorney General, the former senator from Alabama, is seriously considering running for his old seat, we're told. He would face Democrat Doug Jones, who, of course, won the seat in late 2017 after facing off with Roy Moore, who faced global recognition for admitting that he'd had some inappropriate relationships with younger women. Sessions would join a already crowded field that has 5 other Republicans already running. But no matter who prevails, Republicans here in Washington and down in Alabama believe that the Republican would ultimately win the seat. Jones is seen as the most vulnerable Democrat seeking re-election. by sheer fact that Alabama is a very Republican state, and the support for the president is pretty strong. So Jones would have to really go out of his way to somehow pull it off. If Sessions decides to return, we will see to what extent the Trump White House and Republican leadership is excited or perhaps not pleased about his decision to run, given that he's essentially been tossed to the curb by the president and was always kind of seen as an outlier and troublemaker in the Republican conference for taking especially strident views on issues like immigration.
And when does Jeff Sessions have to decide by, Ed?
By next Friday, the 8th of November. So
Okay.
if he wants to do this, he's got to get the paperwork together pretty quickly.
All right, we know you'll be watching. Ed O'Keefe in Washington for us. Ed, thank you very much.
Take care.